Art mirrors the human condition.
We uncover its hidden patterns,
Experience human creativity.
elevated by digital analysis.
Welcome to the Academy.
Join the journey.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a massive historical mystery that's literally hiding in plain sight right inside a single striking museum artifact. You know how it is. We so often stroll through these vast, echoing galleries, spot a beautiful piece of carved stone, snap a quick photo on our phones, and just keep walking. Well, today, we are hitting the brakes. We're going to treat this brilliant visual artifact like an active detective scene, meticulously hunting for those subtle, highly deliberate cues that some ancient sculptor left behind for us to find. So, to really anchor our investigation today, let's start with a pretty provocative question. How exactly do you read a statue? I mean, seriously, think about that for a second. Without a thick, heavy guidebook, and without an audio tour whispering all the answers into your ear, how can we actually decode the silent, ancient stories these visual artifacts are trying to tell us right now? Because, the ancients didn't just carve pretty figures out of rock just for the aesthetic pleasure of it. No, they carved massive, three-dimensional billboards that were absolutely packed with symbolism. Every single detail on that stone, it was a deliberate choice meant to communicate a very specific message to whoever was looking at it. Just look at the imposing scale of this marble figure. She is completely commanding the room under the skylights and track lighting of a modern, packed gallery. Standing elevated on that massive stone plinth, she utterly dominates the space. You can even see the museum visitors gathered around in the background, right? They're snapping photos, looking entirely dwarfed by her monumental presence. And the statue is remarkably preserved. She's standing incredibly tall, with these flowing, elegantly draped classical garments, the cascade in heavy folds all the way down to her sandaled feet. But, and here's the kicker, she isn't just passively standing there. She's holding very specific objects, wearing highly unique gear, and projecting this intense aura that practically demands we step a little closer and uncover her true identity. Now, if you squint just a bit at the background signage visible on the far left wall of the gallery, you'll spot some text. It translates to Cults and Beliefs in the Empire, which is perfect because it firmly grounds our visual investigation right in the classical imperial era. This tells us right off the bat that we're not just looking at a generic art display here. This is an exhibition specifically curated to show us how people in the ancient Roman or Greek empires understood their incredibly complex world, their gods, and their core values. That signage is our first big contextual hint. The woman carved into this marble is definitely not just some mortal citizen. She's a figure of profound religious, cultural, and honestly probably political significance to an ancient empire. All right, let's dive into the meat of this by mapping out our investigation. We're going to use 4 distinct visual clues, carved directly into the marble: the large spear she's holding, the crusted helmet resting on her head, the small owl perched in her hand, and that intricate snake-lined chest piece draped over her shoulders. By breaking down this massive, overwhelming artifact into just these 4 easily digestible pieces, we can systematically piece together exactly who she is, and more importantly, what powerful message she was built to project. Starting near the top and right side of the figure, we immediately run into some clear, undeniable martial elements. Look right at the very top of her head. That is a classic crested helmet, though it's actually really interesting. It's pushed back off her face, resting high on her head rather than pulled down over her eyes for active, in-the-moment combat. It kind of suggests she's at rest, but, always prepared. Then follow her right arm down. Her hand is firmly gripping this long, dark, imposing spear that stretches from the base of the statue all the way up past her helmet. It's a heavy, functional-looking weapon. So these are the undisputed tools of a warrior, right? This is someone who is intimately well-versed in the violent realities of ancient conflict. But wait, here is the jarring contradiction. If she's this seasoned warrior holding a giant spear in one hand, you'd naturally expect her to be wielding a heavy shield or maybe a sword in the other, right? Well, instead, she holds her left hand out incredibly delicately, offering us a small owl. Yeah, an owl. In antiquity, the owl wasn't just some cute symbol of wisdom. Its ability to see in the dark made it a powerful symbol of tactical foresight, literally seeing what your enemy cannot see. And that completely shifts our entire understanding of who this armed figure might actually be. It is just such a brilliant dichotomy. I mean, what kind of warrior brings a delicate bird to a brutal battlefield? On one side of the ledger, we have the raw attributes of war, the heavy dark spear, the protective crested helmet, and the armor we'll look at in just a second. But then, on the exact opposite side, we have the profound attributes of intellect. The delicate owl, paired with the statue's incredibly calm, almost unbothered facial expression, and those flowing, elegant draped garments that look way more suited for a philosopher's forum than a muddy battlefield. It tells us that her specific brand of warfare isn't just about brute force. Actually, scratch that. It's not about brute force at all. It is deeply calculated and highly intelligent. Now let's move right to the center of her chest to see how all this builds. Notice the sculpted breastplate featuring these intertwined snakes and a central gorgon visage. If you look right between her shoulders, draped over the top of that elegant dress, you can see this is definitely not ordinary fabric. The edges are literally lined with coiling snakes, and right smack in the center is a slightly terrifying face, a gorgon, like Medusa. In antiquity, this specific protective collar was known as the aegis. It was a legendary piece of divine armor, a symbol of ultimate protection meant to strike absolute paralyzing fear into enemies. It was essentially the ancient world's ultimate intimidation tactic, and it perfectly bridges the gap between the earthly weapon she's holding and the divine, mythic realm she occupies. So, the absolutely crucial point here is that by synthesizing all of these clues, the martial armor and the heavy spear, combined with the owl of wisdom and that divine snake-lined aegis, we can positively identify this archetype as Athena, or her Roman equivalent Minerva. We aren't looking at just any foot soldier or some generic general here. We are looking at the ancient goddess of strategy, wisdom, and righteous, disciplined warfare. The sculptor utilized these specific, highly legible symbols so that absolutely anyone walking past, whether they were an educated emperor or just a common tradesman, could instantly recognize her divine identity and her incredibly complex, dual nature. Zooming back out to our museum setting for a moment, this figure serves as the absolute perfect, tangible manifestation of those cults and beliefs mentioned on the gallery wall. She completely embodies the dual necessities of strategic warfare and intellect in the ancient world. Think about it. For an ancient empire to survive and thrive, it absolutely required both things. It needed the strategic, brutal capacity for warfare to defend its borders, but it also desperately needed the high-minded intellect to govern its people, write its laws, and build its civilization. Athena, or Minerva, embodies these dual, complementary necessities perfectly. Standing amidst the other statues in this gallery space, she stands out as the supreme physical symbol of an empire's ultimate ideal, immense power guided closely by deep wisdom. To wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a thought about the incredible power of visual storytelling. Long before mass literacy, long before the internet or television, these statues were the mass media of the day. They were the billboards, the broadcasts, the whole shebang. So the next time you walk past a carved piece of marble in a museum, remember, you aren't just looking at pretty stone. You are reading a carefully crafted, highly strategic message sent directly to you from thousands of years in the past. What other silent stories are just waiting for you to read them?
Love the masterpiece? Subscribe for more.